Look deep, deep into my eyes. You are witnessing a demonstration of the awesome power of the human mind. The unlimited potential of total concentration. My mind is totally focused, able to maintain absolute and utter control. A mind such as this is a powerful force. It could even rule the world. Hey! Huh?
No harm will come to you.
No harm, my friends. PTPOP here, another episode of Call Center Survivor, where I lead you out of the rabbit hole, one grain of truth at a time. Buckle up, babies. We are on for a ride today. We're going for a ride today. Buckle up for safety. Because today we're going to be talking about the reality of the American dream, why the perfect life is actually a huge lie. And I'm excited about this video. This is a video that I'm going to comment on. It is not my video. It is by the Solo Second Half. There's a woman, a young lady who talks about the realities of life. And to tell you a little bit about the realities of my life today, while I was preparing to make this video, I heard the sounds of a diesel truck outside my office here. I looked out the window and they were taking away my neighbor's mother. And my neighbor has been taking care of her mother who has Alzheimer's, her elderly mother. And she had taken it upon herself to care for her mother instead of putting her in her home. And today they just took her mother away. I don't know what the circumstances are, but that's life. Life is can be a very rough and very cruel thing. But I wanted to show you this video today because this one makes some very beautiful points that I have emphasized in my own podcast and here on YouTube. And I feel like I'm not alone with this now. I feel really good that I'm not alone. So let's start with this. This is titled, Why the Perfect Life is Actually a Huge Lie. And this woman says, are marriage and kids the key to happiness? If you do everything society says, are you guaranteed happiness? Let's talk about how societal pressures and the keys to happiness are all lies and how toxic positivity is destroying humanity. So let's start off, see what she has to say here. Let's make her real big. Looks like she lives on a nice farm there. Looks like a good place to live.
And have you been told if you just get married, have kids, and do everything just right, you're assured of some sort of Disney lifestyle with a Hallmark ending assured? Well, let me tell you, that's some full-on BS.
Amen. I've been preaching this for years, and I fell for this very hard. I fell for it hard when I was a kid. Grew up in a very dysfunctional family with 2 alcoholic parents, poverty, scraping money to get just a little bit of food, living on the street for a short period of time. And I can tell you this, I just was dying for happily ever after. That's all I thought life was going to be like the Brady Bunch. And I realized well after the fact that it was all a bunch of baloney.
And I have been told that in my comments section. Thanks for watching and all the comments. But seriously, let's talk about this. Society puts some seriously crazy pressures and delusional beliefs onto people. The truth is, you can do everything just right by the book. Not many of us humans do, but close, right? You can have the kids, have the family, be the loving spouse, try to do it all. Yeah, you can. And guess what? Life may have other plans. And by people out there not accepting the full spectrum of life and events that happen to people, it completely invalidates the human experience and makes people feel bad.
Now, I agree with this. You know, especially just kids I went to school with, kids in the neighborhood had all of these things that I thought I needed to have to be happy. You know, I saw the when I was in kindergarten, the people next door to us had a camper. They were always going on vacation. The kids I grew up with were always going out to Arizona on vacation. People were doing things, always had new cars. But years and years later, I find out that, I don't know about my relatives, but the people I went to school with, I found a lot of those people were living in abusive families, just like I was. And it was all a lie. But the bottom line is they sell you this fairy tale, this Hallmark reading fairy tale, and you think if you can't get it and you can't achieve it, then you're nothing. You're dirt. You're not. It's not worth living, and you get lonely, you get depressed, and suicidal.
This toxic positivity going on in this world, it's making our society and individual humans sick. And it's a bunch of crap. It's about as useful as those corporate posters when you walk into the office that say, teamwork makes the dream work and all that nonsense. Does that really give you high functioning, productive teams? I don't think so. Not the offices I've been in. It's a bunch.
No, every office I've ever worked in, they have those yay, rah, hoorah posters on the wall with the silhouette of the strong woman climbing a mountain with the sun setting behind her and say, be all you can be, strive a little harder, you'll reach the peak. That kind of stuff. And I've never seen it. Offices, all corporate offices are filled with backstabbing lunatics and gossip and just a torrential downpour of BS.
Crap, and maybe has the opposite effect. And that's pretty much the truth with what's going on in our world with this toxic positivity, this judgment. I've realized through looking in the comments, so many people out there, they can't handle the truth, the reality of life. And that is making the rest of us out here that are experiencing things for real, job loss, family not being around, kids having problems, that's kind of invalidating and negating all of those experiences. And it's putting it back on the individual saying, you did something wrong. That's why you're alone. That's why your kids aren't around and not talking to you. That's why you don't have a job anymore.
Now, here's the thing. This is what I think. I think a lot of people have swallowed the bullshit. They've been hypnotized. They've been hoodwinked into believing that these are the things you need to be happy. Now think about all the people we know. They get the house, they get the spouse, they get the car, they get the 2.5 kids and the golden retriever, and they can't figure out why they're not happy. They can't figure out why nothing is working. They can't figure out why their spouse left them. They can't figure out why they lost their job, because they've got us all living in a fantasy world. They've got us all living in this little weird Hallmark fantasy world, and it's all a lie. And they keep dangling that carrot in front of us. Well, if you just try a little harder, keep trying a little harder, keep trying, you're going to eventually get that bucket of gold. You're going to eventually reach the end of the rainbow. You're going to eventually find that unicorn job, that unicorn spouse, that unicorn love of your life. And we keep looking for it, and it's not there because it's not real. And people start numbing themselves with booze and cigarettes and food and porn to numb themselves to the reality of life. Life itself is nothing like that. It's nothing like what they're trying to sell you.
It's your fault. And you know what? That's a bunch of crap. What are us humans doing?
And it's not your fault, because what you're trying to achieve, if you don't achieve it, it doesn't mean you're a loser. It means you actually are a real person. If you wake up one day and go, wait a minute, I'm chasing after the ghost in the wind, then you finally start to realize that, hey, maybe there's something better. Maybe I can be happier without all this.
To each other. We need each other. I've got people in the comments telling me, oh, hey, you look good. Don't worry. It's still time to find a man. What video are you people watching?
Yeah, exactly. And as I said in other videos, I'm 59, and if I ever get divorced, I'm never going to date again. There's nothing out there. I have met people since I've been married, just people you meet in passing at photo shoots. I've worked with some very attractive women, and you start talking to them like, oh man, your mouth just negated how beautiful your body is. It's just, and I really don't think I want to be with anybody again. It's just like, okay, I don't need this. I mean, not that I don't need my wife. I just mean, it's like a lot of the stuff they preach to you that you have to be happy isn't real. It's just not.
I didn't end up alone. I walked here and I'm happy. And so are millions of other people. The judgment, the insanity going on out there, society applying one group's rules to everybody.
Yeah, I used to have this friend named Brian, and he and I were well into our 30s, and we were both single. And we had this discussion that, people probably think we're a gay couple because we'd go out for beers and go to the movies and stuff together. But we both couldn't figure out why we couldn't find anybody. And we started to write this song. I'm Not Gay. I'm Not Gay was the name of the song. Because people think when you're in your 30s and you're a guy, if you're not married, well, there must be something wrong with you. You must be gay as a $3 bill. And just because you're not married, just because you don't have a spouse and you're a guy or a woman, doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. I could have been married several times up to that point in my life, and I declined to do so. One time I decided to go to college. Another time, the woman had made some demands on me at the very end of our engagement, near the wedding, that I didn't like and resented, and I called off the wedding because I saw her true colors. And a lot of it was, I thank God I didn't get married when I did. I got married at a good time in my life.
It's hurting us. What the heck happened to accepting everything? When I was in college, right, back in the 80s, before the internet and I don't know what, the PSYOPs games that go on with it, we used to accept each other. We relished in hanging out and talking about differences. We'd have our little arguments and discussions and really flush out the differences. Then we'd open up our minds and think about what the options were, the full range.
College, I was in a fraternity, and it's the last place I ever lived other than this house. It's the last place I ever lived where I actually felt like home. It was home away from home. I was in a house with a group of guys, and for the most part, everybody got along. We all seemed to accept one another for who we were. We would have discussions. I remember brothers having big political discussions about things at the time, like Ronald Reagan and was the president of the United States at the time, and a whole bunch of stuff going on in the world, and having huge discussions about sports. And we would agree to disagree, and then we just walk away, and then nothing else would come of it. And these group of guys seem to care about each other, and we seem to really get along. And I think those days are gone. I don't even know if that really exists anymore in the world, with people, with men, with women. I mean, what I've said all along in my podcast PTPOP, A Mind Revolution, is all we have is each other. But they don't want us to think that. They don't want us to know that.
We'd laugh. We'd just laugh and carry on. It's all turned into insanity. Humanity out there, it needs a big friggin' hug and embrace and some acceptance and tolerance. We need to acknowledge that life is not fair. Is not going to treat everybody great. You can do everything right and have everything blow up right in your face. And it's not your fault. It's not. It's life. It's part of the human experience. We've got the kids running around thinking that every little emotion they have needs a medication, and they're not right. They're filled with depression, anxiety, trauma, all of it.
Yeah, I agree with that completely because, when you think about everything today, everybody wants an immediate solution. And they've convinced everybody that everybody's sick. And they've got everybody on psychotropic drugs to curb their anxiety, to curb their depression. Well, a lot of the things that we do in this country cause the depression. We create a fantasy world, an unachievable fantasy world, where people are told they can go out and find a storybook Hallmark ending. You're going to live happily ever after. And then you're told if you're depressed, there's something wrong with you. Here, take this pill, you'll feel better. And everybody is depressed. Everybody thinks they're depressed because they can't find this unicorn. Whatever the unicorn happens to be. The unicorn when you join the military, the unicorn when you get into the corporate world, the unicorn in college, the unicorn of falling in love, the greatest sex life in the world. None of it exists.
Yes, there's real mental illnesses out there, and by gosh, they need help if they have them. But everybody who's feeling something, going through something, doesn't have a diagnosis, doesn't need medication, and isn't sick. Maybe they need some love and understanding and freaking tolerance from us humans. Maybe the adults around here need to start acknowledging that life is not fair, stuff happens, even to really good people that do everything right. We got to normalize being human again. Having some fairy tale belief that if you get married and have kids, everything's going to be great, that is really damaging. You know how many people were married and didn't do anything wrong and they caught their spouse cheating, screwing up things? Man or woman, this fairy tale expectation that society's putting on out there, it's having the opposite effect. It's just making people sick.
It is. It really is. And you think about all the people just around me. The lady next door to me, she's taking care of her sick mother who's got Alzheimer's. And, you know, all the people around me, they've got these houses and everybody's got cars and jobs and they all look so happy. But, you know, I've met so many people in my life that tell me they're miserable in their marriage or they're miserable in their relationship and they want out or they can't stand it. You know, or they got divorced because so-and-so was beating them or something was happening. You know, the divorce rate is at 50 to 60%. I mean, marriage is not exactly all that it's cracked up to be. Relationships, this fantasy relationship, the fantasy job, all of it's a lie, and that's why people get depressed because they get into this. You get into the job and you think, well, I'm working hard, I'm doing everything you're telling me to do, but I'm not getting promoted, I'm not getting the raises. Why? Well, because there's a whole different political scheme going on behind the doors of the hospital you work in, or the corporation you work in, or the movie theater, the movie production company. It's an entire different world when you cross the threshold of those businesses. And if they don't like you, you don't get anywhere. Nothing you did wrong. It's just because you don't fit the mold of the person that they hired.
That did nothing wrong. The spouse cheated. They lost their job. Financial troubles came, and the marriage.
Think about how unrealistic marriage is. You're given this unrealistic expectation that you're going to live happily ever after. And then you get into the marriage and you find out your partner has these quirks or these weird things going on in their lives or their families are fucked up. And you're like, oh my God, what do I do? You're stuck. And I know this. I've got a friend that recently just got divorced. And the situation that she was in was crazy. Just crazy, weird. And she had to get out or it was going to kill her. And you get in a lot of these situations where you think, oh, I met this person, they're so gorgeous, and they've got a good job, and they've got nice money. And then you think you're getting along fine, then that person leaves you, or they are cheating on you, things like that.
Marriage turned to hell. They had kids. The kid ended up maybe with an addiction problem, an eating disorder. Who knows? This is life. It's real. And almost nobody's getting out of here unscathed.
I agree with that because life is real and it's filled with a lot of frustration and pain. And that's not being negative. That's the truth. I mean, as you get older, especially, your body changes for the worse. And a lot of people can't handle it. A lot of people can't handle the reality of what life is all about. And you see it all around you in the animal world. You see trees, they grow, they get big. Then they get a disease, then the branches fall off, and they rot, then they blow over in a windstorm, and before you know it, it's just a rotten piece of trunk on the on the ground, and the rest of the trunk is sticking out of the ground with termites and bugs eating it. It's the same thing with humans. We go through this whole thing, and we get sick, we get old, and we die, and that's the cycle of life. That's not being negative, but a lot of us try to hide from it. We try to run from it. We medicate ourselves with booze and with drugs and with cigarettes and with sex, trying to escape it. But eventually, one day, you're going to open up your eyes and go, oh shit, I just ruined. I could have been on the earth another 10 years if I hadn't just completely destroyed my life, trying to numb myself from the realities of life. Most of us are running like scared rabbits, in the dark. If you've ever seen a rabbit, like when my dogs would chase the rabbits in my backyard, the rabbits would run frantically in zigzag patterns all over the backyard and finally squeeze themselves into a hole under a fence. Guys, there's no place for us to run. There's no fence for us to run away from. There's hounds out there chasing us and eventually going to catch up to us, and to numb ourselves. I guess that's one way of getting through life. I saw, at the very least, my father numb himself to life. He turned his back on his responsibility to his wife and his children and his finances, and he was severely addicted to alcohol. And it was devastating to 6 people. My 3 siblings and my mother and him. It destroyed his life and destroyed my mother's life, and it could have destroyed my siblings' lives. Fortunately, we survived. But I don't know about them, but myself, I tried to numb myself, from all the bad memories and the things that I grew up with, and there's no running away from it. There's not enough booze you can drink to get past those things. And as I grew up, and I started talking to people from high school, kids I grew up with since kindergarten and first grade, the abuse, worst things that I ever went through that I didn't even know was going on because their families were putting a shellac on it. They were putting a nice glossy coating over their lives. They had the nice house and all the cars, and they had money, and they're going on vacations. But behind the closed doors, Dad was a drunk, beating Mom every night. There was sexual abuse. There's all kinds of things going on that none of us knew about. Far worse things than I ever lived through. And much of what you see out there is a facade. People are putting on a brave face. People want you to think they have the American dream. People want you to think they have everything. But in the long run, most of us are just trying to get by.
When are we going to start having a little bit more compassion, acceptance, and acknowledging what's reality?
Yeah, and I'll leave it with that because I agree with her there, because all we have is each other. And I find it in this society in 2025 that most people have stopped caring about one another. People have walked away from families without a second thought. People don't care about their parents. Their parents seemingly don't care about their kids. There's absolutely no regard for anybody else's well-being. I see it again and again and again. You call up people that you've known for years. You talk to them on the phone, or you text them, ask them how they're doing, what's going on with the wife and kids, so on and so forth. There's never any response of, hey, it's good to hear from you. How are you? How is your wife? How's your job search going in Cleveland? Nothing. It's all about them. Or they just get in touch with you just to be nosy. I've seen this so many times. People don't care. They contact me. I have no idea why they contacted me. And then the discussions are very superfluous and meaningless and empty. And there's no real meat to the conversation. No caring, no empathy. I've gotten more empathy from strangers on the street than from my friends. And the reason it's falling apart is they're trying to live up to this unrealistic standard, the American dream standard, of trying to have the house and the car and the jobs and the vacations and the money and all these. You can't have all of that stuff. Something's going to fall down. You can't spin all these plates and juggle all these balls without dropping one of them. But this lady's completely right. You know, the perfect life doesn't exist. It's not out there. They've got you chasing your tail. They've got you chasing the wind.
Yeah, I know it sucks sometimes, but guess what? Running away from it or putting your head in the sand, it's not going to change anything.
So let's take a look at the comments. Let's take a look at the comments in this lady's video from some of her viewers. These are pretty interesting. And one I find, this guy says, I was dating my girlfriend for 12 years. She recently died of a heart attack. She got addicted to cocaine the last few years. After she passed away, I looked through her phone and found out she cheated on me a few times. I'm fine with being alone now. The world is unpredictable and will humble you. Learn to depend on yourself only and be independent. Stack your money and live a quiet, peaceful life. Stay firm and strong. Betrayal will come from those closest to you. Completely true. But there's one down here. This is from LV Luxury Homes. She says, I really needed to hear this. Excuse me, my husband of 23 years died on a ventilator due to COVID in 2021. I was only 55. It's been 4 years and I'm still single. My family and friends say, You're still very attractive, so you can find someone. I've learned the last 4 years that people perceive that you're only valuable if you're in a relationship. I feel invisible, but that's okay. All of the friends we had when we were a couple have all vanished, but that's okay. I see life through a set of eyes now. The biggest thing is that I see everyone for who they truly are. I go to restaurants and eat alone. People stare, but that's okay. I'm doing life the way I want, and if society doesn't expect that, I really don't care. And this is something that I've seen quite a bit, that people only value you, as I said, if you're in a relationship. Like if you're a single guy and you're older, they automatically assume you're homosexual. You know, they say all these weird things. You can tell people are like, oh, why aren't you married? You should be with somebody. Like your whole life and your whole value in this society is bent upon how much money you have, how good looking you are, and if you have a spouse of some sort or a girlfriend or boyfriend. And you're only valuable if you're in a relationship. And then the thing that we found, my wife and I agreed when we got married, we didn't want to have children. I've never wanted to have children ever. I've never had any conceived, ill-conceived, or well-conceived notion of having children in my life. No desire, no passion. I know I'm far too selfish and wrapped up in myself to have kids. I want nothing to do with it. Dogs are a different story. But kids are a wholly different story. And we found that every time we met people in our development that have children, we had nothing in common with them. They didn't want to talk to us, you know, because they're always off going to soccer matches or football games with their kids, or they're going out to some Disney movie, and you know, we had nothing in common. They didn't want to have anything to do with us because we didn't have children. There's another good one on here. She says, my sister, this is from Daisy Chavez, my sister works in a nursing home. Countless daughters and sons have their parents abandoned there, and when their parents die, they eagerly ready to collect their big check. Not all kids are good to their parents. Oh, that is so true, man. That is so true. I saw it with my mother. My poor mother dying in a hospital. She wasn't even dead. She wasn't even dead yet. And people were trying to get what was eventually going to become my inheritance. I'm telling you, people, we've got to start thinking about each other, because money and things, goods and good times don't get you anywhere. So let me know what your experience has been with this kind of thinking. If you've awoken to the lies and you realize it's all a lie, and being alone isn't so bad, and being single isn't so bad, let me know what your experience has been with family, betrayal, and seeing how people are so wrapped up in material goods and wealth and obtaining money and obtaining notoriety. I don't do this for notoriety. I do it because I'm trying to make money, because it's the only thing that I derive money from other than a few book sales I'm making money. So let me know what you think. Thank you all for listening. And I'm going to leave you with this song. This is a song called I Understand You Now. This is a song I wrote when I came to deep forgiveness about both my parents many years ago. Have a good day.
I thought it strange when you told me that one day your dreams had changed, that you were a sucker for the strong, silent type. You told me how after all these years, how the crossroads dropped you off and left you here. Now once you leave, you can never go back. Now I've walked 1,000 miles in your shoes. My clothes are torn and tattered, my ego bruised. Then I think I understand you now. Yes, I
Have a good day,
understand you
people.
now.